Module 4, Civil Disobedience Theories, Practices, and Global Perspectives. 1. The concept of civil disobedience. Civil disobedience sits at the intersection of law, morality, and political struggle. Unlike ordinary lawbreaking, for example, theft or tax evasion, civil disobedience is public, it is done openly to attract awareness, conscientious, it is guided by moral or ethical principles, nonviolent, violence undermines legitimacy and public sympathy, symbolic, the act itself is meant to highlight injustice and awaken conscience, risk-bearing, activists accept legal punishment to underscore their sincerity. Civil disobedience challenges the belief that laws are absolute by insisting that when laws contradict justice, human dignity, or higher moral principles, justice must prevail. To philosophical and theoretical foundations, civil disobedience has been debated by philosophers, theologians, and legal theorists for centuries. Socratic roots. Socrates 469–399 BCE argued that citizens had an obligation to obey the law, yet his own trial and willingness to accept death highlighted the tension between conscience and state authority. His stance influenced later thinkers on whether justice is higher than legal obedience. B. Christian and religious perspectives. St. Augustine, an unjust law is no law at all. Thomas Aquinas distinguished between human law and natural/divine law, insisting unjust human laws could be resisted. C. Social contract theories. John Locke argued that governments are legitimate only when protecting natural rights, life, liberty, property. If governments betray this trust, citizens have a right, even a duty, to resist. 3. Civil disobedience in practice. Historical and contemporary examples. A. United States abolitionist movement, resistance to slavery laws. Civil rights movement, sit-ins, marches, boycotts led by MLK, Rosa Parks, SNCC, and others. Vietnam War protests, draft card burnings, student protests. India Salt March, 1930, Gandhi led thousands to defy the British salt monopoly. Quit India movement, 1942, civil disobedience campaigns for independence. South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and the ANC, initially engaged in civil disobedience campaigns against apartheid, before shifting to armed resistance. D. Eastern Europe. The Solidarity Movement in Poland, 1980s, used strikes and civil disobedience to challenge communist rule. Contemporary global cases, Hong Kong protests, 2019, occupations, sit-ins, umbrella movement, climate activism, Extinction Rebellion uses road blockades and symbolic arrests. Nigeria's #EndSARS movement, 2020, peaceful protests against police brutality. Arab Spring 2011, mass disobedience and defiance against authoritarian regimes. 4. Ethical dilemmas and critiques. Civil disobedience raises profound ethical and practical questions. Legitimacy. When does breaking the law strengthen democracy and when does it weaken it? Violence versus nonviolence. Can violent disobedience ever be justified? Selectivity. Who decides which laws are unjust? Public order. Does disobedience risk chaos or social breakdown? Political effectiveness. Does it lead to meaningful reform or simply symbolic protest? 5. Methods and tactics of civil disobedience. Sit-ins. Occupying public or private spaces. Boycotts, refusing to buy goods/services. Marches and demonstrations. Mass mobilization. Tax resistance. Refusing to fund government actions. Symbolic actions. Burning draft cards. Tearing down colonial statues. Mass occupations. Occupy Wall Street. Tiananmen Square. Gezi Park. Each tactic carries risks and relies heavily on media amplification, solidarity networks, and public opinion. 6. Civil disobedience in the digital age. Online petitions, digital strikes, hacktivism, for example, anonymous, use of hashtags, #MeToo, #BlackLivesMatter, #EndSARS, to coordinate civil resistance. Governments respond with internet shutdowns, censorship, surveillance. 7. State responses to civil disobedience. Repression, arrests, violence, censorship, accommodation, legal reforms, concessions, delegitimization, labeling activists as criminals, foreign agents, or terrorists. The balance between repression and accommodation often determines whether movements succeed or collapse. 8. Civil disobedience as a democratic tool. While controversial, civil disobedience has historically expanded democracy, challenged authoritarianism, and protected minority rights. It acts as a safety valve when institutions fail, enabling societies to confront injustice without violent revolution.